So this is what the name of my presentation: impact of carbon dioxide emissions on environment and environmental taxes on the stock returns. How the stock returns are impacted with the carbon dioxide emissions and the environmental taxes. This is an empirical evidence from the 28 economies. And I'm from Pakistan, and my university name is the Sakrabia University. So first of all, the introduction of my paper. So world has been changing in the terms of the evolution and the deregulation ever since the industrial revolution began in the late 1700s. On one hand, the nations have achieved the remarkable economic progress and drastic improvements in the living standards. On other hand, the substances hazardous to the health have polluted the world's environment. The Industrial Revolution changed the economic map of the world. Thereafter, the economic deregulations became a side effect of the development. Environmental deregulation embarrassed the depletion of the three major natural resources: air, water, and the soil, demolition of the ecosystem, wildlife extinction, and the pollution. To safeguard the environmental quality, nations around the world have pledged to control the contributor cause through the corrective actions, which may include the concrete environmental reforms, e.g., implementations of environmental related more consumptions of the renewable energy, employment of the environmental technologies, and blah blah. So, introduction further explains that the study which I did explores, is there any relationship between the carbon dioxide emissions and their impact on the stock returns? Further, is there any impact of the environmental taxes which are implemented by the economies on the stock returns? So I took the 28 economies, inclusive of the impact of the, as we know that abatement policies, which is the environmental tax on the stock returns. So these are the hypotheses of my study. The first one hypothesis is the carbon dioxide emissions and stock market index return have a negative and the significant relationship. The second hypothesis of my study is the environmental tax implementation and stock market index return have a positive and the significant relationship. The data and the econometric model. The sample includes the carbon dioxide emissions at the country level, stock index, and the environmental taxes of the emerging and the developed countries of the world. To explore the relationship among proposed variable, the panel ARDL method was used. Before going for the panel ARDL, I gone through certain other tests. For example, the cross-sectional dependence, slope homogeneity, unit root test, co-integration test, and long-run elasticity test. So the sample consists of the data of the carbon dioxide emissions, environmental tax, stock market returns of the 48 countries. The data is taken from the World Bank, World Development Indicators, and OECD, Economic Cooperations and Development. The data is ranging from 1994 to 2014, and this is the data is consisting of the 21 years. These are the countries of my sample: Austria, Australia, Canada, Czech Republic, Chile, Denmark, Finland, France, Germany, Hungary, Iceland, Ireland, Japan, Malaysia, Mexico, New Zealand, Norway, Peru, Philippines, Poland, South Africa, South Korea, Spain, Sweden, Switzerland, Turkey, UK, and the US. The data, which is consisting of the 28 countries, this is just because of the unavailability of the other countries. So the total sample of the OECD data, which is consisting of the environmental taxes, is including only 28 countries, and that was ranging from 2000, that is ranging from 1994 to 2014. Then this is what the countries share in the global carbon emissions. As we can see that Australia is emitting 1% of the global carbon dioxide emissions, Brazil 1%, Canada 2%, China is uh, emitting 28%, which is the highest one, then France 1, and the second highest is the India of the 7%. Then there is the Russian Federation, and United States, which is emitting 15% and 21% from rest of the world. So these are the certain econometric techniques which I used in my paper. First one is the cross-sectional dependence. Then I went for the slope homogeneity. Then the unity root test, penal coordination test. Then heterogeneous parameter estimates, CCEMG and AMG. These are the second generational techniques to analyze the long run elasticities and short run elasticities of the time series data. Then this is what the existence of the cross-sectional dependence. So as per this table, there was the existence of the cross-sectional dependence as the p-value is 0, in all three variables. The variable was the index, stock index, then carbon dioxide emissions, and then the environmental tax. I took the log of all three variables, and this is what the values are, p-values, which are quite significant. So these are showing that there is the cross-sectional dependence among variable. If there is the cross-sectional dependence, then we can use the first generational ARDL techniques. Then we have to go with the second generational. So as we are going with the second generational, then we have to analyze either the slope is homogeneous or not. So slope homogeneity, that was the that was the 1 minute. That was the hypothesis, and that is also rejected. And because the p-value is 0 over here, then there is what the unit root penal unit root test. The index was significant at level, then CO2 emissions, then the environmental taxes. But when we are taking first difference, these become stationary. Then there is the penal cointegration test, and this is what there is a cointegration among the overall variable series, which are the index, stock index, CO2 emissions, and the environmental taxes. Then I went for the CCMG and AMG long-term estimator. So there is no relationship in the long run. But when we are going for the CCAMG and AMG second generational short-run elastic estimators, so I came up with these particular results. The Austria is these are the results for the CO2 emissions, and these are the results for the environmental taxes. As per my hypothesis, there must be a significant and negative relationship between the CO2 emissions and the stock market index returns. So, whenever CO2 emissions are rising or increasing, Chile reports a negative relationship between the CO2 emissions and the stock returns. Then there is an other country of the Ireland. It's also representing a negative and significant relationship. Then there is what the CO2 emissions as per the AMG estimator. So Finland is representing a negative and significant relationship. Then Iceland, then Ireland as per the AMG estimator. Then the Malaysia is also reporting the negative and the significant relationship between the CO2 emissions and stock returns. After that, these are certain countries, other countries, which is including South Korea, is reporting negative and significant relationship between the CO2 emissions and stock market index return, then Spain, Sweden, likewise Turkey, and then USA. As per the MG estimator, there is the negative relationship between the CO2 emissions and the stock returns as per the South Korean results, then the Sweden, then UK, and the USA. After that, another remedy, which is what the environmental taxes, when the countries are implementing environmental taxes, so there must be a reduction in the CO2 emissions. And in other words, if countries are implementing environmental taxes, so their stock returns are must have a positive relationship as per my hypothesis. So Austria is reporting positive relationship between the environmental taxes and CO2 environmental taxes and stock returns. Then Canada is reporting positive relationship. Then France is also reporting a positive and significant relationship. As per the AMG estimator, Austria is again reporting a positive relationship between the CO2 between the environmental taxes and the CO stock returns.
Excuse me,
Finland,
doctor. I'm sorry to interrupt you. We've got about 2 or 3 minutes
yes.
left for the presentation.
Okay. This is what the second last slide. Okay, so then Finland, then France, and again Peru, then South Korea, Spain, USA. Environmental taxes are reporting positive relationship with stock returns as per the New Zealand, Peru, South Korea, Spain, Turkey, and USA. So this is what the most important one. Okay, USA, which is the second most highest emitter of the CO2 emissions, has a positive impact of implementation of the environmental taxes, and overall CO2 emissions are reducing their stock returns. So this is the most important relationship. Then the conclusion, the relationship between the carbon dioxide emissions and environmental tax was found to be positive and significant in most of the countries under both estimators of the penal ARDL approach, again inclusive of the US. Therefore, it can be concluded from the results that when carbon dioxide emissions increase, it may reduce the stock market index returns in short run, which is quite important because we are taking into account the money markets, stock market, which grabs the impact based on the movements too. Therefore, if corporations control their carbon dioxide emissions, it will positively impact their stock market returns. Moreover, the stock index returns increase as environmental tax rates are rising, which shows that the pollution abatement strategies can lead to required results in major countries of the world. Thus, the results advocate that the implementation of environmental purifying measures to keep the world clean and avoid negative impacts of the carbon pollution on the people, planet, and the profits. So this is what all about my presentation.